Modern culture tells him to be softer, more vulnerable, more available, to express, to open up, to give without limit. But what no one warns him is that the moment he does, something changes. The very things he offers, stability, affection, consistency, are no longer seen as gifts. They are assumed, expected, devalued. Schopenhauer knew this long before modern psychology tried to explain it. He saw what others refused to see, that relationships are not built on fairness or affection, but on silent negotiations of power and utility. Not what you feel, but what you're worth. Not who you are, but what you provide. He did not speak of this with resentment. He spoke with clarity. Women, he argued, are not cruel, but calculating, instinctively. Nature has made them that way. And a man, unless he understands this truth, will live in confusion, always asking what he did wrong, always assuming the failure was his fault. But the truth is darker. It wasn't that you failed her. It's that you fulfilled your role. And once your usefulness ended, so did the illusion. This isn't a message designed to make you angry. It's designed to wake you up. Because the man who sees reality, no matter how painful, is stronger than the one who clings to lies. Schopenhauer did not promise comfort. He offered clarity. And it starts with seeing exactly how and why you're being used. Every interaction between a man and a woman carries a cost, even if no one speaks of it. Beneath the surface of charm, laughter, and shared moments, a silent exchange is taking place. It's not about love. It's not about connection. It's about value, measured, weighed, calculated. A man believes he's building something, trust, intimacy, a future. But what he's really doing is paying, with his time, his attention, his protection, his status. These are not gifts in a woman's eyes. They are the baseline, the minimum price of entry. And once he stops paying, whether through fatigue, failure, or just a moment of vulnerability, the balance shifts. She begins to reassess. Her instinct kicks in. The illusion starts to slip. Schopenhauer saw it with brutal clarity. He understood that what appears as affection is often strategy, not always conscious, not always malicious, but instinctual. Women do not love the way men want to be loved. They love what is useful. They love what secures them. They love what elevates them. The moment that utility fades, their loyalty does too. And the tragedy? Most men never even know the transaction took place. They think they were chosen for who they are, for their heart, their honesty, their commitment. But that's not what was being evaluated. They were measured for their usefulness, and they were used accordingly. This isn't bitterness. It's biology. It's the deep architecture of human behavior that no fairy tale can overwrite. Men give because they believe it will lead to love. But in many cases, what it leads to is exploitation wrapped in affection. To be needed is not the same as being loved. And until a man understands the difference, he will keep paying, blindly, until he has nothing left to give. In the modern world, a man's attention is the new form of currency, and it's being drained every day without him realizing it. Not with force, but with smiles, glances, and subtle cues designed to extract value while giving nothing in return. A woman doesn't need to want you to want what you give. She only needs you to look, to chase, to offer your time and focus. That alone is a form of power. She doesn't have to sleep with you. She doesn't even have to like you. Your attention validates her. It reassures her value in the social market. It confirms she still has control. And as long as you're giving it freely, she has no reason to give anything back. You are already giving her what she needs. This is not a conscious plan. It's deeper than that. It's instinct, a survival strategy shaped by centuries of evolution. The woman who could attract attention without giving herself away gained power without risk. And in today's world of screens and endless connection, that dynamic is stronger than ever. Men are taught to pursue, to prove themselves, to keep showing up, texting, complimenting, hoping. But most don't realize they're playing a game that was rigged from the start. Their attention is being harvested, not reciprocated. It's treated like an endless resource, something disposable, something cheap. Schopenhauer didn't write about Instagram, but he understood the principle. That which is easily given is never respected, and a man who throws his attention at every beautiful face will be used by them all. The man who learns to protect his gaze, who gives his time and focus like it matters, is the one who reclaims power. Until then, he remains a tool, not seen, not chosen, just used. A man is told to open up, to be honest, to show emotion. He's told that vulnerability is strength, that women want depth, not just surface. So he listens. He drops the armor. He speaks from the heart. He reveals his fears, his doubts, his struggles. And slowly, without realizing it, he begins to unravel in her eyes. She doesn't attack him. She doesn't walk away immediately. But something changes. The air shifts. The admiration dulls. The attraction fades. What was once seen as stoic and dependable now feels exposed and weak. Not because she hates his vulnerability, but because nature does. Schopenhauer understood that human desire is not shaped by ideals. It is shaped by instincts. A woman may say she wants openness, but her biology is watching something else. Strength, control, certainty. When a man bleeds emotionally, something ancient in her recoils. Not out of cruelty, but out of survival. Women seek protection, not confession. They are wired to find the man who can carry the weight, not the one collapsing under it. Vulnerability sounds noble in theory, but in practice, it disrupts the primal dynamic. It asks a woman to be the anchor when she was searching for one. This is the paradox. The man who hides his pain is seen as distant. The one who reveals it is seen as fragile. Either way, he loses unless he understands the game. Strength isn't loud. It's not about pretending. It's about control, not of others, but of himself. When a man masters his silence, not out of fear, but out of discipline, he becomes what women claim they want, but rarely understand. Dependable without dependence, open without spilling, present without begging. She may ask for your truth, but what she truly respects is your restraint. Most men live under the belief that they choose the women they pursue. That desire comes from them, that they are the initiators, the hunters, the ones in control. But the truth is far more unsettling. The choice was never theirs. It only felt like it was. From the moment a woman steps into a room, she sends signals, silent, calculated, often subconscious. A glance held a moment too long, a smile timed perfectly, a posture that invites but never begs. It is not an accident, it is a trigger. And the man, believing he is making the first move, is simply reacting. She already chose him, only not with words, but with a silent green light. Schopenhauer knew that the will governs more than thought. It governs desire, and desire in men is reactive, visual, fast. It grips the senses before logic can intervene. A woman understands this naturally, not through philosophy, but through instinct. She does not need to chase. She only needs to be seen. She creates the scenario where a man thinks he's deciding, while in truth, he's being directed. The illusion runs deep. A man thinks he's leading the dance, but she wrote the music. He calls it chemistry, fate, alignment. But what he's responding to is design, not his, hers. And the deeper he falls, the more convinced he becomes that he is in control, when in fact, he is following a path she laid without speaking a word. This is not manipulation in the way men imagine it. It is older than that, simpler, more elegant. It is the quiet power of selection without pursuit. And by the time a man realizes he was never the chooser, he's already playing a role in a story he didn't write, believing it was his from the start. In the modern world, attention is currency, and no one spends or collects it more strategically than women. A glance, a like, a fleeting compliment, all seem harmless on the surface. But they are part of a deeper transaction, one where validation is given just enough to keep a man circling, never enough to let him land. A woman's beauty, Schopenhauer might argue, is not just a passive trait, it is an asset. It doesn't need to do anything. It simply exists, and in doing so, generates value, not because of what it is, but because of what men are willing to give for it. Time, energy, focus, sometimes even their future. And the more men pay, the more value it accumulates. The system is efficient. Attention flows to the most desirable, not necessarily the most deserving. A man pours himself into proving his worth, trying to win a presence that was never scarce to begin with. She is not cruel for leveraging this. She is simply playing the game she was born into, one where her worth is measured by how many want her, not how deeply. This is not seduction, it's economics. A woman learns early that her attention is power, and power, once recognized, is never given freely. She doles it out in doses, just enough to keep you hoping, trying, chasing. Never enough to satisfy, only enough to sustain the illusion of progress. Men believe they are making headway. That persistence will be rewarded. But most are not approaching a finish line. They're running in a circle, unaware the rules were set from the beginning. Because in the marketplace of desire, it is not the one who offers the most who wins. It is the one who understands that attention, once spent carelessly, is never returned. Men are raised to believe that power comes with a cost, that to lead, to decide, to have influence, you must carry the weight of consequence. But women, Schopenhauer would argue, often possess a form of power that escapes this burden entirely. It is not tied to authority, accountability, or action. It's embedded in suggestion, presence, and emotional leverage. And unlike male power, it is rarely questioned, never taxed, and almost always invisible. A man who fails is held to account. He must explain, rebuild, and prove his worth all over again. But when a woman's decisions lead to chaos, heartbreak, or destruction, blame often drifts elsewhere. The narrative bends, circumstances are invoked. Emotion becomes justification. The same society that demands stoicism from men offers shelter to women, even when they shape the outcomes from behind the curtain. This imbalance is not about justice. It's about perception. Male power is direct, and so it is feared, checked, resisted. Female power is elusive, and so it is underestimated. But what's unseen can be more dangerous than what's declared. A whisper can steer a decision. A tear can stop an argument. A retreat into victimhood can shield someone from judgment, even when they held the match that lit the fire. This is not about blame. It's about clarity. When power moves in shadows, it escapes scrutiny. When it wears the mask of vulnerability, it is never held responsible. And so, men are left navigating a world where the rules only seem to apply in one direction, where strength is punished and softness is weaponized. Schopenhauer did not romanticize this. He saw it as a truth others were too afraid to name, that power, when unclaimed and undefined, can do more than dominate. It can reshape reality without ever being seen at all. A man believes he chooses, that his desire, his will, his pursuit is entirely his own. But Schopenhauer saw through this delusion. What appears to be choice is often pre-written by forces beneath awareness. Biology, instinct, subtle manipulation. The path he walks toward a woman is not built by logic or freedom, but by compulsion disguised as attraction. He thinks he prefers her smile, her voice, the way she moves. But what draws him is not personal. It is primal. Nature scripts the roles with brutal efficiency. A man seeks youth, softness, symmetry, not because he truly understands them, but because centuries of survival demanded he respond. She does not need to chase. All she needs is to appear. His instincts do the rest. But the illusion deepens. Even when he feels in control, choosing who to date, who to marry, he fails to see that she has already laid the trap. The framing of her image, the tone of her voice, the strategic withholding of affection, it's a game designed to make him believe he's leading when he's following. She guides the dynamic from the start, not with commands, but with cues. Her silence is louder than any argument. Her disinterest creates urgency. Her approval becomes a goal. Freedom becomes theater. The man acts, but only within the boundaries she silently draws. His preferences are preconditioned. His devotion, hijacked. What he thinks is love may just be a chemical leash. What he calls choice may be a set of invisible chains. Schopenhauer believed that man is not free, not in will, not in love, not in instinct. And nowhere is that more evident than in his relationships. Because when desire speaks, reason falls silent. And the more convinced a man is of his control, the deeper he sinks into a script he never wrote. In most arenas of life, weakness is a disadvantage. In nature, it means vulnerability. In competition, it means defeat. But Schopenhauer understood that for women, perceived weakness can be transformed into dominance. When society rewards fragility and punishes force, the game changes entirely. A trembling voice, a tear at the right moment, a glance that conveys dependence. These aren't signs of powerlessness. They are tools. And they work more effectively than any act of aggression. Men are taught to suppress emotion, to fight through pain, to solve through strength. That's their currency. But when women display the opposite, helplessness, uncertainty, fear, it activates an ancient response in men, the urge to protect, to provide, to submit their will for hers. This dynamic doesn't need to be spoken. It's embedded in the structure of interaction itself. He sees weakness, and he lowers his guard. She sees his lowered guard, and she moves forward, gently, invisibly, until he doesn't even notice he's no longer in control. And because it's framed as vulnerability, it escapes blame. When a man raises his voice, he's called aggressive. When a woman cries, she's seen as honest. Her softness disarms criticism. Her pain reshapes truth. In the courtroom of emotion, she always holds the moral high ground. Even when she's wrong, she wins. This is not accidental. It is a form of strength so disguised it goes unnoticed. A type of dominance that doesn't look like domination. Men don't see it because they are still looking for power in the form they understand. Direct, bold, overt. But Schopenhauer saw otherwise. He saw that when weakness is protected, rewarded, and idealized, it no longer needs to change. It becomes strategy. It becomes leverage. It becomes a quiet force that bends the strongest wills without ever raising a hand. Schopenhauer believed that at the root of human suffering is the will, the endless, gnawing force that drives desire without ever offering satisfaction. For men, this will often manifest as ambition, conquest, achievement. But for women, he argued, it takes a different shape. The craving for affirmation, not from within, but through the eyes of others. She does not seek identity as much as reflection. Her self-worth is constructed from responses, shaped not in solitude, but in attention. From youth, a girl learns that approval is her currency. A compliment, a glance, a raised eyebrow, all become evidence of value. She doesn't need to build monuments or wage wars. Her power grows in proportion to how much the world mirrors back her desirability. But this kind of validation is fleeting. Like a mirror that only reflects when others are watching, her sense of self becomes tethered to presence, perception, praise. Without it, she begins to vanish. This is not vanity, it is survival. In a world where her influence has long been relational, emotional, and aesthetic, being seen is being safe. Being admired is being protected. And so, the performance never stops. Every movement, every expression, every word is subtly calculated to elicit a response. Not because she is insincere, but because silence is terrifying. Indifference is erasure. Men do not fully understand this hunger. They seek legacy, something to leave behind. Women, Schopenhauer believed, seek affirmation, something to constantly reaffirm. The man wants to be remembered. The woman wants to be noticed. And both are trapped. But the woman's trap is quieter, more invisible, and harder to escape. Because as long as her identity is built through reflection, she must always keep the mirror clean, always chase the next look, the next like, the next moment where someone else tells her, "You exist." In the grand narratives of history, men are often cast as the builders, the destroyers, the martyrs for ideals greater than themselves. They give their lives for nations, for gods, for the illusion of immortality. Their sacrifices are loud, visible, and tragic. But Schopenhauer saw another kind of sacrifice, quieter, subtler, and deeply transactional. Not the sacrifice of self for principle, but the sacrifice of truth for advantage. A kind women have mastered through generations of adaptation. Women, he argued, do not sacrifice for abstract causes. They sacrifice for stability, for relationships, for leverage. In this exchange, truth becomes negotiable. Principles bend. Integrity is a luxury when survival is the goal. She will apologize without guilt if it keeps the peace. She will flatter without sincerity if it maintains control. She will pretend not to know what she knows if it secures affection or resources. This is not weakness. It is an evolved form of pragmatism. While men suffer from their ideals, chasing them into ruin, women let go of ideals the moment they become inconvenient. They don't cling to truth for its own sake. They cling to what works. In this way, they are far more efficient, far more brutal, because the currency is always exchange. What can be traded for comfort, for commitment, for influence? And if the price is authenticity, so be it. This economy of sacrifice operates beneath the surface, invisible to those who are caught in it. A smile in place of honesty, silence in place of confrontation, a nod instead of resistance. Schopenhauer did not admire this, but he understood it. He saw that while men destroy themselves, chasing unreachable dreams, women survive by letting go of what doesn't serve them. And sometimes, that means letting go of the truth itself. For all the talk of love, equality, and shared purpose, Schopenhauer saw a far darker undercurrent in male-female relations. He did not believe men and women were meant to complete each other, nor that they were designed to coexist in perfect harmony. Instead, he viewed their connection as fundamentally antagonistic. Two forces with conflicting instincts, drawn together by biology, but locked in a quiet war of interests. What appears to be unity is often just a temporary truce. To Schopenhauer, nature does not care about happiness. It only cares about function. And the function of man and woman is not emotional peace, but reproduction, protection, and the continuation of the species. Everything else, romance, compatibility, shared dreams, is theater. Men seek freedom, expansion, and legacy. Women seek security, control, and presence. These goals do not align, they collide. And what keeps them tethered to each other is not love, but necessity. Behind the illusion of partnership lies competition, for influence, for direction, for meaning. A man gives up his mission to please a woman, and he feels resentment. A woman gives up her needs to support a man's purpose, and she feels neglected. Both walk away feeling used. Neither gets what they truly wanted. And yet they return to each other, again and again, not out of understanding, but because nature pulls them back. Harmony, Schopenhauer believed, is not the default. It is a brief pause between opposing currents, a mirage that fades the moment pressure returns. The mistake is believing that peace was ever the point. It wasn't. The truth is harsher. Men and women are not mirrors of each other, nor puzzle pieces. They are rivals under the surface, partners only when it serves them, and strangers once the illusion wears thin. The war never ends. It only changes form.